Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934. It is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, you forgot your receipt.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Good evening, and welcome to Primetime Sports. It's Jazz Fest time in New Orleans. For one weekend's in the books, second one's coming up. So we made this our first all-music show ever on Primetime Sports. We're going to have three legends from New Orleans. Paul Sanchez, one of the great songwriters of all time, great singer. Also, Glen David Andrews. He is back and doing great things right now. That's Trombone Shorty, Troy Andrews' cousin, and he's with a great musical family. And also, don't forget my man, Rockin Dopsie is here as well. These two are all friends, and they are great legends. I can't wait. But let's get to sports. Right now, the NFL draft is in the books. That's right, Tyjae Spears, who was just on this set literally a week ago. Well, he got in the third round with the Titans. Congratulations to him. His teammate Dorian Williams went in the third round as well to the Bills. And how about Nick Anderson? We had him on the show. We love Nick Anderson. He is an undrafted free agent to the Saints. That's right. The little Sam Mills guy is going to be a Saint. And speaking of Saints, what do you think about their draft? They got the #1 guy coming out of high school a few years ago, Brian Brzee. He is a big defensive tackle. Fills up a lot of space. He can get to the quarterback. He went to Clemson, but this guy's on potential too because he had some injuries. In the second round, Isaiah Foskey and his 26.5 sacks at Notre Dame. Well, he's going to fill the edge rush spot. Kendra Miller, running back from TCU. Big reason why this team did not win or compete against Georgia because he did not play in the national championship game. Would have been a win, but it would have been closer. Nick Saldiveri, offensive lineman. Jake Haener, they're trying to make him Drew Brees Jr. He's going from Fresno at quarterback. And how about Jordan Howden's going to play defensive back. And A.T. Perry, with his 26 touchdowns the last 2 years, he is coming from Wake Forest. Also, B.J. Ojulari with LSU. You know, he's going to the Cardinals. That's a second-round pick. Congrats. 6 guys from LSU went. Anthony Bradford to the Seahawks. Jay Ward and Jaquelin Roy to the Vikings. Kayshon Boutte to the Patriots. And also Jarek Bernard Converse to the Jets. Also moving forward, how about the NBA playoffs? Harden got 45 last night. Big upset. No Embiid, no problem. They beat Boston on the road. Jokic, 39 points, 16 rebounds. They go up 2-0 against Phoenix. Playoff Chris hurt again. Sorry, CP3. And the Lakers, Warriors, that starts tonight. Steph versus LeBron. Cannot wait for that. And Heat, they're the underdogs to the Knicks again. They won game one. Your boy Butler scored 56 and 47 to beat Milwaukee. He did great things again moving forward. And then HL playoffs, 8 teams. None of these teams have won since 2006. Those are the teams left. We got a big show. Primetime Sports coming up next.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, remember we talked in the open about how this is going to be our Jazz Fest show, our first ever all-music show. And you know I love music just as much as I love sports. And my next guest loves sports just as much as he loves music, and that's a fact. We had him on right before the Saints season, talking about the old Saints. Then we talked about the playoff Saints finally in the 80s and moving on. But he loves the Saints, he loves football, he loves sports, and he loves New Orleans, and that's what it's all about. He is a 4-time, out of the last 10 years, Songwriter of the Year from Offbeat Magazine. This guy's been in so many shows, I can't even count them. Treme, NCIS New Orleans, Interview with the Vampire. He gets killed, I believe. We'll ask him that next. But he's coming up. He played the Fest last Friday on the first day by himself, and now he's going to have Glen David Andrews, one of our guests, coming up, and they're going to play this Saturday. We're going to figure out the time later, but Paul Sanchez is his name. Good to see you again, brother.
Good to see you too, brother.
I always love the look, man. You always got the nice jewelry, sometimes the hat. You're looking good again.
Well, it was a Jazz Fest show. I had to wear the hat.
You did, man.
I came. You said you wanted to represent Jazz Fest. This is my Jazz Fest attire here.
You always look good, though. I mean, you look sharp. And he loves the Taz shirts. We're not even promoting. You do love those, though.
I do. They're very comfortable.
I know. I'm not even doing an ad right now, but I mean,
they're just so soft, you know.
I wear one every day.
Yeah, it does.
I wear the underwear every day.
Because T-shirts can feel heavy for me.
Yes.
Especially since Katrina. I can't stand binding clothing.
Tight spaces.
And tight spaces.
Right.
And this T-shirt's really, it's really soft and sort of gentle on your wear.
Gentle. That's the way to go. Hey, y'all can thank me, Al, for that one. I didn't even mean it. But let's talk about, like, real quick about the when you died in an Interview for the Vampire. Tell that story.
That was fun. I did the audition, and they said, okay, you got it. You're going to play a guy who dies during the Depression in the Irish Channel.
Nice.
I was like, well, I was born in the Irish Channel,
right.
And I've certainly felt like I've died there many times.
No doubt about it.
So and it was really great. It was fun. It was a freezing cold night, and after the first take, the young actress that was killing me, she went, wow, that was really good.
Really?
I thought, great. And I was bleeding from the neck. So like the far away take from 15 feet away, they just had a little sponge with some blood in it, and they're like, just squeeze it a little bit.
Just squeeze.
But for my close-up, they had a hose hooked in there, and they had a woman about 15 feet away pumping the blood. And man, when I got home, I got in the shower. It looked like the scene from Psycho.
Really? Was it squirting out?
It was squirting through my fingers.
Oh my God!
It was all over me,
so
man.
You got it right in the jugular.
I got, oh yeah, she took me down, like, you know.
Took me down.
I went down like 2-pack.
I got like 2-pack. Look at you. Okay, well, let's stop there. Hey, real quick, when you played yourself, that's got to be cool. So talk about, like, you're not an actor anymore. Now you're playing. I'm a music.
That was really my
star.
first experience. That's how I got started getting little roles in movies and TV shows.
Was that Treme or was it NCIS?
It was in Treme's HBO series where I played Paul Sanchez, a songwriter from New Orleans. And so it was great. I did several, and what was even cool about it was, like, I did several shows where I just sang.
Yeah.
And then in the third season, they said, you know, had a scene that they wanted me to act in. And it was great fun because it was a scene where Steve Zahn playing. I
love Steve Zahn, man.
He's a wonderful actor, and the character was inspired by my friend, that's me and Shamar Nunu, photographer from Chicago.
Yeah.
I had a scene where he was going to ask me if I had another foot of Canal Street in me because he wanted to write a song with me. So it was my first time acting on film, and I asked Michael Cerveris and my friend Carl Palmer, two wonderful actors, what do I do? And they both said the same thing. You don't do anything. He's the star.
Right.
You just look into his eyes, and whatever energy he gives you, you just give it back.
You respond, right.
And so
90% of acting is reacting. Did they tell you that?
They didn't say that, but actually Carl probably did. But anyway, so the scene came up, and he was supposed to say, so do you have another foot of Canal Street in you? But he went, so, and then he made pretty eyes at me. And then he said the line, and I did what you did, I laughed. Right. And I went, yeah, you know, you want to write? And so that was it. They were like, okay, that was it, one take. But all I really did was follow my friend's advice, look into his eyes, and react to him, and he made me laugh.
Last acting question. I remember the first time I saw you, I was living in Atlanta, and you were a juror of something. What was that?
I was on Your Honor, the Brian Cranston
that wasn't
series.
Okay, that was here then. Okay,
that was
you were
here.
a juror in Your Honor.
But like, for me being an actor.
I love the show, by the way.
Yeah, it was
my favorite show going.
He's a wonderful person to work around. He was so nice to the crew and to the extras, which most impressed me.
I could argue that he could arguably be the greatest actor of this generation right now, because there's so many that we know the De Niro's and Pacinos and all that. I'm talking about right now. You know, there's Denzel. We got some great ones. I'm talking about for what he does, Breaking Bad, and all these little roles. He's darn good.
Amazingly versatile.
Yeah.
You know, he's a great comic actor, a really intense dramatic actor. So yeah, that was fun. But for acting for me is totally different. Like in Treme, I played myself, but when I go to a commercial or a television role, the director usually says, can you say it like this, like right before you do the scene? So as a musician, I listen to the rise and fall of his voice and the intonation. I say it exactly how he said it, as close as I can. And 9 out of 10 times, he or she goes, that's perfect. And the reason is partly because we all like it our way, but also because a director's been hearing this in his head for months.
Yes, he has.
Before you ever step in front of him.
Right.
And he knows what he's looking for, and you're like his instrument. He's playing musical instruments.
Good way to say, man.
And I'm just giving him what he wants, and that makes the job easier for him, and it makes it really easy for me.
Right. So when you read that script, do you have a certain thing in your head, maybe?
Of course.
Do you already know what the director wants, or he gets to the set and he tells you?
9 times out of 10, I'm just picturing myself as George Clooney.
Okay. Well, don't we all?
I just try and relax and talk deep, deep voice, and
that's a good one to pick from.
Well,
he's so smooth and cool.
He is, incredibly cool. Even Brad Pitt called him the sexiest man alive. But I saw this interview with him on Inside Actors Studio, and he said, a young actor said, how do you get ready for auditions? And he goes, here's the trick with auditions. What you have to remember is 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the role. So just relax.
Yeah, right,
Go in there and just do the work.
That's a good way to look at it, man. Just relax. Hey, man, you're just throwing it out there. I'm playing with house money. Let's see what happens here, right? All right, we're going to talk about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. I know you're a founding member of Cowboy Mouth, so I've just come back. I went 26 straight years when I lived away for 30 years. I was coming a lot. And first time I missed was during a playoff game. I couldn't get away from TNT. But I've seen you at Cowboy Mouth. I've seen you solo. I've seen you many times. Now, how many times have you been at the Jazz Fest, do you know, as a musician?
Our first Jazz Fest, Cowboy Mouth, was 1993.
Yeah.
And I've played at every Jazz Fest since, except for the year after Katrina, because I had left Cowboy Mouth.
Right.
I was the only guy in the band that had lost everything. So I really had to come home and sort of recalibrate.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, and so I came home and started over and started the Rolling Road Show, which has now played at the Jazz Fest every year since 2007.
The Rolling Road Show?
Yeah.
Explain it real quick.
I was doing a show at Wednesday in the Square, and it was a funny show because this was in 2007. I was recording Exit to Mystery Street, and the Youth Council calls me, and they go, hey, would you like to do a Wednesday in the Square? I said, love to. And they said, okay, well, we don't want to hurt your feelings, but we're afraid you're a little old for our demographic, and would you mind doing the show with somebody else? We'll partner you up. And I said, sure. And they said, would you be cool with Ivan Neville? And I said, I love Ivan. He's playing on my record right now. I'll ask him. So I said to him, hey, Ivan, would you do this show with me? Because they are afraid my demographic is too old. And he looked at me and he goes, Paul, you know we're the same age.
Yeah, right.
I said, yeah, I know that, and you know that, but they don't know that.
They apparently don't.
And if you say yes, we get the gig. So he said yes, and I hired a bunch of friends from like Sonia Tetlow and Mary Lasang from Cowboy Mouth, and David Torkanowski and Shamar Allen and Craig Klein.
Great musicians, by the way.
And I had people sing their own songs.
Yeah.
And this woman came up to me, it was pretty close after Katrina, and she came up and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, that community on stage was everything I thought New Orleans music was supposed to be. And so I just stuck with the idea of, and somebody said, what is it? And a friend of mine said, it's a regular Rolling Road Show is what it is.
I mean, isn't Dumpster Funk kind of like that a little bit too? I mean, they put those things together. They got all these musicians. I saw them in Bread Rocks last year, and I just was seeing, I recognized 8 of the people in the band.
It's not something every band leader does, give away the spotlight.
Right.
In fact, the first times I did it, people would look at me and go, wait, I'm singing?
Right.
And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, don't you think that'd be fun? They went, well, yeah, but it's your show. And I went, yeah, and I think it'd be fun to have you sing, man. I love your stuff.
It's our show. It's our show.
Well, ultimately, it really is. It's about what makes for a fun show. And for me, community. I didn't have a father growing up, so the idea of family, of finding family, being with family is very important to me. And on stage, one of my greatest compliments at Jazz Fest is that everybody says, man, backstage was as fun as out on stage. Everybody's smiling, everybody's happy.
Isn't that great?
And then I said to a friend recently, I was getting interviewed by Offbeat, and they said, you've brought more people to debut at Jazz Fest than most acts. What's that like? Why do you do it? And I said, well, the look on the performer's face is great. but really it's the look on the faces of their family, their mother, father, their loved ones, their friends, because they always believed them and knew they'd be on the big stage. And
that is about as wonderful a thing as I've ever heard, honestly, on this show.
Well, you know, yesterday I got a call from Glen, who plays with the Klezmer All-Stars, and he plays with me, and he sang my song, Roll Out the Sidewalks, and he said, you know, you said that in that interview, and I just wanted to tell you, it happened for me. Somebody caught me on the big screen, and I posted it on my Facebook page, and my family shared it. And he goes, you know, they've seen me play Jazz Fest. They just hadn't seen me singing on the big screen, and it mattered to him, and I just wanted to say thank you.
That's so cool, man.
I mean, he's a sweet man.
Those stories, probably, you don't even probably know half of them that have done the same thing, right? Because I just haven't had that conversation with them.
No, I haven't, and that's always nice when somebody says that you mattered to their life.
You know, Jazz Fest, I think of, like I said, I've been to 30 or so, probably more, but the fact is that when I look at certain shows just stand out for whatever reason. I've seen pretty much everything. Like Stephen Stills did something in '85 on a Fado Do stage. It was small, man, but I just remember a magical moment, and I never forgot it. There's been others, even Florida. I mean, he just tore the house down about 5 years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, I barely knew who this guy was, and now he's my favorite, you know? But it's across the board. Do you have a moment when you played the fest that you just knew you captured everybody, it was there, and y'all had that, you know, that communal spirit?
You know, Jazz Fest creates that communal spirit before they even walk through the gates. They're outside the gates, meeting at, I'll use this by the track, or meeting at the different entrances. People that don't know each other from around the country
it's
are meeting
wonderful.
and saying, hey, great to see you again.
Yes.
And before the gates even open, there's a sense of community. And so what I'm doing is taking part in that community.
Yeah.
And yes, I've felt that moment many times. It's when the entire crowd singing Foot of Canal Street with me, or they're singing with Shamar and I on Love is Blind, or any one of those moments where we're all coming together to celebrate an emotion, a feeling, a sense of either joy or loss together.
Yes, yes. Well, you got, okay, well, I'm going to go one more on that topic, because songwriting, when you get into your songs, obviously you're a singer and songwriter, but when you get into writing a song, is there one that just stuck out, and maybe Katrina, or maybe something more joyful, that you're just like, wow, I just love what I just put down on paper?
Well, my songs are like my children. I love every single one of them, and I love the newest one the most.
Right? Okay, good.
But and I'm happy to write really quickly. It's the most natural thing on the planet for me.
Good.
My friends joke that when you write with Sanchez, you give him a line, and then 30 seconds later he says, you know, here's half the song, or the finished song, really. But writing Foot of Canal Street with John Boutte was something I knew was special when we had finished it. It was the first song we'd ever written together.
Yeah.
And we wrote it because we were walking at the end of Canal Street, and we were talking about the differences in our lives growing up in New Orleans in the 60s, he being black and me being white.
Right.
And he noted that when we were little kids, we couldn't have ridden on the same part of the bus together.
Wow,
And so
that's strong.
We were going to a Texaco station on Canal Street near the cemeteries to get him a pack of cigarettes, which thank God he doesn't smoke anymore. And he pointed to the cemetery. He said, you know, baby, my father's buried there. I said, man, that's something. My daddy's buried right across the street.
Isn't that
And he looked at
wild?
me and smiled and said, you know what, baby, black or white, we all gonna meet at the foot of Canal Street.
We all gonna meet at the foot of Canal.
And so that we went home and wrote that song, and wrote it really quickly. It took us less than an hour. And he went, and he doesn't write songs.
So your mom's on the other side at Green, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where my
Green
mother
Lawn.
is too. That's
My
small
mother
world.
and father, yeah.
Small world right there. Once
That's
again.
New Orleans.
That is
you
New
know.
Orleans. Hey, real quick, Glen David Andrews. I know you're close to him. You're going to play with him, obviously, this
In the
Saturday.
Blues Tent. He played with me on the Gentili stage on Friday. He sang a song, a gospel song we'd written together called Walking Through Heaven's Gate. Just ripped the crowd apart. It was wonderful. And he's going to have me play guitar, because he really likes the rock thing that I bring to his music. And he insists, as he says, I'm not hiring Paul Sanchez, I'm hiring the Beast.
The Beast?
Make sure he shows up.
I just listened to some of his new album, man. I mean, he gets after it. He plays a remake of, maybe my producer can help me, but I said,
I Fought the Law.
Yes, I Fought the Law.
It's a great remake.
Did you hear it? I listened to it last
It's in
night.
G minor.
And that's the Clash, right? I mean, I love the Clash.
It's a Clash, and it goes back to the 60s, the original version, but it's a major key song, and he and his band decided to do it in a minor key.
In the minor key.
Really cool, man.
I listened to it twice. I was like, whoa, man, he's feeling it.
Yeah.
And it built up in that whole time. It was wonderful. I'm glad you saved me on it, because I was thinking, what is the name
Well, I
of the song?
knew right away. I think what's different about this album for Glen is that he's been living away for a while. He's been living up in Vermont with these wonderful family, the Logans, and they've got him doing yoga.
Yes.
His spiritual side is really taken off, and he's he's sober and embracing life, and he's playing with some guys from up there, a rock band really is what they are.
Yes.
And they're great. They're young guys, and they're given a rock edge, which I always thought Glen was like one of the greatest rock frontmen I ever saw.
He is.
Like he could put the trombone away and just sing, and he can really tear a crowd up. Like he's like a Mick Jagger or something.
And now it's all coming back together for him, you know, because I'm not talking about because he always was a great performer, but the pipes are back. He's got all that.
He had his struggles with substance, and he's past that.
Oh yes.
And he's healthy, and that's why his pipes are good. You know, any singer that's gotten sober will tell you, you know, they're in the best voice of their life.
Right. You got one of the greatest voices too. Listen, I'm just hearing you talk, and I'm like, golly, I wish I had that great voice.
That's funny.
You are one of my favorites. You know that, right?
I can't believe we didn't talk any sports.
No, we're going to do it in the late summer. I'm bringing you back before the Saints season because that was one of my favorite Saints conversations because this man has the history way back. He goes way back, talks about that, and then he talks about the present just like it was yesterday. All right, so here we go. You know Shays de la Shays. I know you and your wife love it.
My wife, you know, I gave the first one away. The first time I was ever on, I gave it to her son Adam.
Okay.
And she was, because he's young and he had a girl, and I just thought it'd be nice.
Right, trying to be nice.
And my wife, she went, "Where's that gift certificate? I want to go to Del." And I went, "Well, I gave it to Adam." And she went,
"What?
I can't believe it." I said, "It's your son." And she said, "It's de la Shays."
It's a great restaurant. Yeah. Evan wants to see y'all, so you come back. There's a T-shirt for you. Wait, you had a few of these.
Yes,
I even
indeed.
dropped off a special delivery at his house once.
That's right.
I appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me.
Paul Sanchez, check him out Saturday. You got the time for me?
I believe it's an early set. I think it's like 12:30.
Early afternoon at the Gospel Tent. Check him out. Glen David Andrews will be joining him, and he's going to be joining us next right here on Primetime Sports. And don't forget, we have later Rockin' Dopsie. You know we love him. He's coming here too. It's a Jazz Fest show right here on PTS.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555. The recent devastation from hurricanes have caused insurance companies to significantly raise their rates. However, most of them are offering large discounts if you install a fortified roof system, which uses larger nails and has a much stronger, resilient base underneath the shingles. The fortified roof professionals at Skyline Contractors can install these new roofing systems for you. More information is available at 504-355-6845 or at skylinecontractors.us.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, how about Paul Sanchez, one of the greats in New Orleans songwriting history and a great singer as well. But next, we got a guy that's playing with him on Saturday. They've been friends for years. They're playing in the Gospel Tent. We mentioned that in the last segment. Early in the afternoon, so wake up and get there early because you're going to miss a great show. My man, Glen David Andrews, who's been on about 5 years ago. It's been a long time. And Paul will be getting after it in the gospel stage. But they've played for many years. I got some pictures of them two together. But he's part of that great family. We know the Andrews family. We know the cousins, Trombone Shorty. We know James, who obviously his grandfather, Jesse Hill, Trumpet Blacks in the family. And there's probably several more. But here he is, the new and improved Glen.
David Andrews.
David Andrews. What's up, baby?
How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling fantastic. And yourself?
Oh, well, you know, we got a lot to celebrate. The Green Wave on fire right now.
How about the Green Wave? Let's get a little Green Wave right here. 12-2, the biggest turnaround in NCAA football history. 2-10 to 12-2 in one season.
Well, they need me to write the fight song. I think me, Paul Sanchez, and Rockin' Dopsie, you should set this up to get them to let us write the come out fight song for the season this year.
I happen to have a great relationship with this particular team because I had basically 8 guys on the season. Because when you're doing well, you're doing well. When LSU does well, I bring them on. The Saints do well. Fact is if you're serious, we can probably make something happen.
I'm serious. I was like, I think I should go first in the draft for starting water boy for the Green Wave.
Too late. Are you listening?
Like, pick me first in the draft, starting water boy. Nobody could give out Gatorade like me, I promise you.
I love this because I never had any idea our conversation would start like this, talking about water boy and Adam Sandler.
Well, it should be. I'm not going. I'm not really going to play on the team. If y'all want to start in water boy for a long-term contract, former free agent, I'm your man.
You got eligibility, right? I mean,
no, but seriously, I would like to write the come out song. I went to several games this year, and since you had Dopsie and Paul Sanchez here, I think it's only right that we come together and write the come out song for the Green Wave, and hopefully you can facilitate that. So when you see them come out the tunnel, when they come in the stadium, which is right uptown by my house, which is awesome.
Oh, you're right there.
They got some New Orleans music to bring it out.
I grew up right there.
All right.
So real quick, I mean, this is my first all-music show. 7 years of doing the show. I've had 100+ musicians, but I've never had 3 at one time. Something like Jazz Fest. I got Coach Kelly from LSU coming next week. Got some big things, but I said, let's do music only. It's the middle week of Jazz Fest, and when I saw that you and Paul were playing together, I said, man, this is perfect. Let's just get them together.
Great spiritual experience to be back with a friend of mine who was just so instrumental in getting me to understand how important I was to writing music and how much he had wrote music about me and for me. And one of the biggest challenges I was able to hopefully, I know I brought into his life, was he always told me I should write a rock album like I just completed in Marlboro, New York, with all rock songs.
Oh, I listened to a bunch of it last night, trust me.
I'm just a blessing to do it.
I fought the law, I listened to it 2 or 3 times. And I've sat there and I'm like, listen to this guy. You kept building up the old Clash song, and I know it came from the 60s.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man.
All great song, but with Paul, it was like, he was challenging me to think outside the box and write, and I wanted to challenge him to do something he'd never done, which I knew was gospel. So we was able to get like Trombone Shorty, Joe. We had 12 of the biggest names in New Orleans in the second oldest Baptist church that my great-grandparents founded in Treme, Free People of Color Zion Hill Baptist Church.
Great.
And that was a big challenge for him because he had never been pushed in that type of arena.
How long ago was that?
Oh, well, how old is my first record? Is 16 years old, 17 years old.
Wow, that was way back.
And then he was instrumental in getting me so many licenses in Treme. And I had no idea how much he really respected my songwriting. And then I fell in love with his song, Hurricane.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
And he introduced me to Sonia Tilto. Tetlo's sister was just at Loyola. And I'm still doing like 3 of her compositions. I got about 3, 4 Paul them compositions I changed. And him and John Boutte and everybody appreciated it, but the fact that such high caliber writers would think enough to me just put me in a great mood to write.
You mentioned the same names that he mentioned earlier. I mean, I've watched Sonia Tetlow many times, John Boutte, but he was talking about the same things in his segment.
Oh my God, down his set at Jazz Fest, he know how much, I got a huge affection for David Rankin. Yes. I think he might be one of the greatest songwriters in New Orleans. And Paul knew how I feel about him, and I never met him. And he got upstairs singing one of the songs I like, and Paul was taking a break to rest his stroke. He said, well, by the way, I want you to, I was like, remember I turned around and took a picture with him. I said, I just met David Rankin, I'm about to write a real song.
He was like,
oh my God, upstairs, Dopsie, I'm like, I'm about to write a real song. I got a real songwriter, so I'm like, that's how he is. He's a very unselfish person. And even like this other amazing gentleman, these people have been inspirational in my career. When I first started traveling and being over there, I was 96, 97. I was 16, 17 years old.
Is that when you started right then?
No, I started. My first official gig was 1987.
So you were 6 or 7. You were 6 or 7 years old?
And then by 1989, Grandpa Elliott started squeezing my stomach and my sides and said, I got a feeling you want to say ooh and ah. So they took me off the drum and put me on the horn. And about 2 weeks later, I was saying ooh and ah. And I learned more singing from Grandpa Elliott, but my aunt was the principal in Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra and one of the first black women to record with the opera in the South. So I was always influenced in the Treme. When I was born, there's 13 ballrooms, 2 owned by my family, 8 funeral homes, Harry Nance, amazing musicians in my family, and maybe 2,000 reasons never to go to school.
Probably 3,000, actually.
So,
I lived right next to a big bar owner that was a music club owner. Y'all probably, too. You remember Jed's right across the street from Maple Leaf back in the 70s?
Yeah.
Jed's was the place, bigger than Maple Leaf back then. And I used to clean it up when I was 10 years old for $10, you know? And I hated picking up those cigarettes and cleaning the urinals, but I got to see music free from 10 to 15. I was just sitting back behind the bar, occasionally sneaking a Miller Lite Pony when I was 13. But I know there's 2,000 reasons to skip school. I don't have as many as you, but I had a few.
So it was good, but like, You know, just to be where I'm at right now in my life and be able to still, just to pick up my phone, a lot of people answer and work with a lot of people, it's just amazing thinking I don't really do much here.
Yeah, you're up north a lot, right? I mean, I know Paul talked about you being up in Vermont a good bit.
Yeah, they all talk about me not staying. That's mostly what everybody talked to me about, but that's not under consideration right now.
So how you looking forward to the fest? What's going on?
Oh man, this is who I told the other day, I only missed 4 in my life.
That's big.
My first picture at the fest, my mom got to play the Buster on Red Bean, right? And she sit it down to wash me in the fountain in Congo Square.
Were you born in 1980? Is that what you're born?
I'm born in 80.
So this is when you're like, 4 or 5?
We lived across the street from Congo Square.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right.
So she washing me in the fountain, and Mr. Barker sitting on the other end of the fountain like that, looking at her, and she holding me like that. So my first appearance, I basically made like a guest appearance with Danny Barker naked, getting cleaned at the first Jazz Fest. I still, that's one of the few pictures she saved from Katrina.
Wow. Did you lose much of Katrina? Because Paul's he lost it all.
Yeah, but we gained a lot more. We came together more than anything. And we realized pictures and materialism never mean nothing like sitting inside and being able to come back together for the first time at Rockin' with Dopsie, being at the Maple Leaf when they still had, the street was horrible and bulldozers, and it was just, for the first year I played for the service workers in front of Cafe Du Monde. I didn't make no money, but I played for a lot of people in steel toes.
You made people happy, that's for sure.
Well, I learned a lot about hard hats and steel toes. I learned that they don't carry cash when you work.
They don't carry cash when they work.
But I had somebody.
But you hustle, you're trying.
I ain't gonna never quit.
Hey, do you love playing or singing more? Do you like playing the trombone or singing? Because you're such a performer.
I like writing, and I like writing for other people.
That's
my performance days are winding down.
They're winding down?
Yeah, definitely.
So you want to be a songwriter towards the twilight of your career?
No, I just want to embrace the other part of my career that doesn't see I have to be a musician and be defined by that.
Right. You like writing any other stuff, like journals, novels, anything? You think about just writing songs?
No, I just want to make wax candles and write a lot of compositions.
Cool. That's cool.
To be really honest with you,
I'll buy wax candles because I do candles every night.
This will be the 3rd year in a row. We get ready to go back for a few months, and I'm in a phase where I hear other people singing my compositions, and that's what
That's got to make you feel good.
Well, we just signed a 200-song license deal. Just did a real good license deal, so I got my work cut out for me.
Congratulations, man! You have a lot of writing to do.
I'm excited about that's what I want to. I love to stand next to Paul and Rockin' Dopsie, but I was always impressed with like Dave Bartholomew and Alan Toussaint and them. That's what always impressed me. I was impressed with Jesse, how he handled the studio and how he wrote way more than how he performed.
Speaking of Alan Toussaint, they did a documentary that won a bunch of awards on him. They just did one. Irma won a bunch of awards. They do a lot of great docs, Fats, and you name it. But tell me about your first experiences with Alan Toussaint, because I look at him as just this gentle legend.
Well, you always see somebody like Alan Toussaint, and through my great uncles and all them people, you hear different things.
Yeah.
But one of my greatest experiences was to travel when we all did the Brazil tour. And you always hear the negative side of things that you really don't have the knowledge of.
Right.
But to see over 20 artists that he wrote from, all on the same accord, saying that if not for him, I would not be the biggest. That was the biggest thing. And then the fact that he spent, he asked me if I wanted to talk to him every morning, could I be downstairs at a certain time for breakfast? And I was. So for almost 17 days straight and multiple times in Europe or whatever, I had the privilege to always just sit down and really pick his brain. And when he realized I was the same person, always asking him questions and bothering him, and just that.
What a guy to pick the brain from, though, right?
Well, why not? If you want to be inspired, you should.
Exactly.
I've always wanted to write songs. I learned a lot from Grandpa Elliott.
That's what I want to talk about, right there.
Grandpa Elliott don't get.
Because y'all were talking off the thing, and I was just hearing y'all's conversation. All of a sudden, he got brought up. What do you remember?
Well, he's one of the greatest songwriters and everything. He didn't get none of the credit that he deserved, but I don't think he looked for it. But for me, he gave me what I couldn't pay for it at a music conservatory. If I was there 8 years, he gave it to me in 2 years in Jackson Square.
Wow.
But the technique for singing and how to try and preserve your voice, but the writing, like Grandpa Elliott got me my publishing company in 1992. I've been having the same publishing since I was 12 years old in my 7th grade year at F.W. Gregory because of Grandpa Elliott. And I published my first song at 14, which is the Give Me a Dime, I Only Got 8, which is still the biggest Mardi Gras anthem played every year.
What I love is seeing the reunion of everybody. I mean, y'all all know each other so well, and I'm talking because I see Rockin' Dopsie coming on next.
Well, I really admire them. I don't pretend like, he'll tell you like, nah, I still no matter how much he'll try and call me on the stage, I actually still sit on the stage and like devoutly watch you, and I always did that. And I always just made it a point to tell him how much I appreciate him, always just loving and encourage me, because, you know, him and Paul Sanchez, you look at these people are established, and you don't think that they would look at you more or less right with you, but not only right with me, but I'd have had many great nights sitting in the middle seat on an 8-hour ride with him and the Dopsie brothers on the plane. And I'm gonna be honest with you.
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall. Some good times.
You, Big Al, Tuba Fat, all on one row. I was convinced they didn't have a lick of alcohol when that plane landed.
Never a boring moment.
Boy,
Never a boring moment, baby.
No, this went on for 8 years straight.
Yeah.
8 years straight today. What you doing? I'm like, man, I'm about to get to the airport. Dupes in them rolling. This man I'm waiting in line in the airport.
He's the king, man. He's the king.
What?
Yeah.
Come on, Dupes.
By the way, let me say this. He's coming up. You two, as performers, I mean, y'all have your own style, but as performers, it doesn't get any better, for real. I mean,
if you watch him, so like for me to watch Paul, right?
Yeah.
And I can put both of the elements together and how they infuse me. So when I watch a Rockin' Dopsie, one of the biggest things, like I could proudly say it in his face, I've never seen no type of malice or jealousy in his performances, which
never.
I would say 95% of the time, people who perform to your level and great as you are some of the most arrogant, type people ever. But I've never seen, like, I proudly tell people on the lineup, and I learned this from Kermit Ruffins, you should know your place in the lineup. And that's one of the greatest things I took from him.
How old were you when he told you that?
Oh, I was about 12, because I was starting to
know your place in the lineup. That's interesting.
Know your place in the lineup.
Trumpet Black, I mean, I know y'all were close, right? Influence there?
I did a lot with my cousin, and I really loved him dearly. I wish, I do wish that we could, I don't think a juvenile jail is the proper way to, it's an awful way to create his memory.
Yeah.
And that's the only stain on his name that I would like to see change. That's not an accolade, that's an insult.
Now, how can you help change it? Maybe through on stage interviews, just talking about it more?
I'm not gonna go into that. Probably doing way more behind the scenes, and I'm finding way more gratification for like the youth stuff and just the other things I'm doing behind the scenes. And I'm just doing a lot of studying through vinyasa and yoga and stuff, and I'm learning a lot of stuff that I'm doing that I'm really not doing it for accolades and stuff. So I do a lot of stuff like that behind the scenes, but I don't want to promote it because I think that I'm doing it, I might be doing it for the wrong intention. And
no, if you promote it, I see, because, you know, yoga, meditation, that's supposed to be not a public thing,
I'm just trying to stay humble in my life and help a lot by passing out more like financial literacy to other musicians.
You know what I've seen just from afar? Pictures. I've seen a glow in your face. I told Kate, your manager, this yesterday.
Totally different place in life right now.
You just have a glow. I mean, you have an aura about you that's positive, and it's wonderful to watch. I just watch it you put stuff out there. I look at your Instagram and all the videos, and it makes me feel great to see you.
You know how nothing. We talk, the yoga is the big part of the recovery, and I had an amazing conversation with Mayor Cantrell, who I actually think is doing a great job getting ready to face. I was getting ready to do some commercials directly related to fentanyl, and I didn't want no promotion and none of that. And right now, what I'm trying to get her, what she's doing, and we're going to partner with them and do, in the next few weeks, we're going to directly address this fentanyl. In the last 2 weeks, we lost 3 New Orleans musicians. So we're going to partner with the city, and it's not for promotion, it's not for likes. My Instagram and all that is doing fine without this. I don't have to promote this. But I've lost 3 personal friends in the last 2 weeks, so it's a mission for me to help. And to be honest with you, I just want to put the message out there that there is no shame, there's no stigmatism.
No.
If you're shaming me in recovery, then I just pray for you that you can find some type of peace in your life, because I'm walking good.
That's what it's all about right there.
Man, I'm on fire. I get to go to Rockin' Bowl without drinking them ponies.
The ponies. Those ponies they don't taste very good anyway. Hey, real quick, the Jazz Fest before we let you go, because this experience at the Jazz Fest this weekend compared to like maybe growing up, how many times have you played there?
Headliner, maybe 15, 16
And how
years.
about just being on stage? I mean,
Over 25.
Yeah, right.
No, 30, maybe 30 straight.
I mean, are you fired up about this weekend? What are you looking forward to?
You know what, to be totally honest with you, my entire band is from Boston and Vermont, so they all here.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
Each person was picked from an honest spiritual aspect.
That's so
my
wonderful.
entire team. And so I brought in Paul, who has always infused me spiritually, and for me, the top off is Maggie Kerner.
Okay. By the way, I can't miss her. Anytime she's around, I will skip whatever I'm doing to go see Maggie.
Well, you better skip
she's
it. She's
phenomenal. I know. Wait, she's on stage with y'all?
Well, I couldn't get Amos Lee and Amy Hill.
Amos Lee at Red Rocks last year.
That's my new single with Amos Lee. Red Rocks is where he recorded my single.
I saw 5 shows last year at Red Rocks.
He got off stage at Red Rocks. He went on his bus, recorded The Spirit, sent it back to me last year.
We're talking about last year in August?
At Red Rocks.
August 16th. I remember like yesterday.
And we got it August 18th.
That's so funny. I was at that show. It was spiritual, by the way.
No,
I could go all day with you, man. Seriously,
man,
I'm going to do it
for having me. Thank you so much.
Man. I love you,
brother.
You're the first one. Listen, I've been talking to him for at least 2 months, or like Facebook messaging and going through his manager, and I've been looking forward to this day, and I'm glad we got to do it with some of your friends as well.
Man, I get to touch the green with him, and I'm on fire.
Oh, we got to sign this. I forgot to do it on air with Paul Sanchez. Paul signed it. This got Al Carnival Tom Johnson.
Oh, my boy Al.
He came on Mardi Gras. We got Chief Monk Boudreaux was on the same show.
Firewater.
And we got Glen David Andrews. Paul Sanchez just signed it off camera, and I got some gifts for you.
Oh, man, thank you so much.
We got a Task shirt. They're the softest. This is no polyester in here like Under Armour. This is bamboo cotton. This will become your favorite shirt.
It will.
So I got one for you, and I got one for Kate, your manager. Also I even threw a little extra so y'all could go to dinner. Usually it's $50. I just do what they call a little lanyard down here, so you can take her and enjoy.
Oh, Dale Chase, that's my boy now.
That's Evan. That's my boy. I grew up with him.
Everybody took my download last week, week before last, and downloaded it.
Oh.
Everybody in Del Chase, the wine bar.
You can go Delachey's or Shays Delachey's. Shays Delachey's, they're both the same owner. Go to Shays because you can sit down, have the meal, as opposed to have to stand up and order it and go.
Yeah.
That Delachey's right by Tulane. It's on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Oh, man, thank you, man.
Enjoy.
Thank you for welcoming us.
Yeah.
And remember, Rockin, Dopsie, Glen David Andrews, Paul Sanchez, new Tulane come out song for the 2023 season.
Hey, the Tulane people watch this show. Trust me on this. We got it right here. Look at that wave helmet. That's a nice one, isn't it? That's got some legend.
Starting water boy.
There it is.
Number 6.
You must be the water boy.
The one and only. Thank you, brother.
You know what? I love it. You're cutting it his time, but he don't care. He loves it too.
You should see him on stage. He always take my time.
Hey, he's the one that said he wanted to come last. So, all right, so here we go.
Know your place in the lineup. You deserve to close it out.
Know your place in the lineup. I love it.
You deserve to close it out.
That's the great Glen David Andrews.
Thank you, man.
Part of the great Andrews family. You know Trombone Short. You know James. You know the whole family. We just talked about half of them right there. But they're going to be on stage, Gospel Tent, Saturday, early afternoon. So, like I said, don't sleep in. Get in there. So it's the Blues Tent. Well, the Blues Tent. Okay, Paul, if you're watching, you told me gospel.
Blues Tent
We're
for
at
the
Blues
gospel
Tent.
experience.
For the gospel experience. That's perfect. Paul, you might have said Blues Tent. I screwed that one up. Hey, but Blues Tent around 12:30, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. We'll see you on Saturday. Also coming up this Thursday. This stage, this man's on, Rockin' Dopsie. He's got Cowboy Mouth before him. He's got Santana after him, and a few others in between. But Rockin' Dopsie was just here a few months ago, but I had to put him on this Jazz Fest show. He's coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports.
Sundays at 6:30 p.m.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports. We're going to call it Primetime Jazz Fest this week because that's what we are. This is an all Jazz Fest show. And if you could hear the 3 musicians I have on all just bantering off camera, that was some of the best talk I've ever heard. They were just talking for 10 minutes. These are musicians that have known each other for years. Obviously, Paul Sanchez led off the show, and then Glen David Andrews came on, and now we have the guy that gets more electric than them all. His name, Rockin' Dopsie.
Hey, Abba.
That's him. Hey, Abba.
What's
His dad was the
baby?
king of Zydeco.
How you doing, man?
He does some Zydeco, but man, it is so much more when you do a show, Rock.
Yeah.
So much more. You're doing the splits up in the air. I'm like, this guy.
Yeah, you know.
For 32 years old, you're doing unbelievable.
Yeah, 32 years old, about 32 years ago. No, I'm joking. I tell you what, man. I got that title years ago as a kid, the James Brown of Zydeco. My father gave me that title.
I didn't even know that. I just looked at you on stage and I said, that's James Brown.
And now when I travel around the world and they got my bio, it's even in my bio now. So I feel now I have to do some James Brown in my show. And believe it or not, in 2005, I was in Italy with James Brown. And I did shows with
Oh,
him.
that's right. Yeah,
I did shows with him with my father. Yeah, as a young kid. And you know, that last show we did together, you know, he told me, he said, man, you know, you remind me of James Brown back in the mid-'60s when I was fasting on my feet.
Right.
And
but you still,
like,
you
man,
still are, though. That's the thing. That's the crazy thing. I don't know exactly your age, but you're not 32, maybe a little bit older. But point is like, I'm like thinking I'd tear a groin, I'd have a bad hamstring the next day. You just do it like it's nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been doing it for such a long time. Now, I do work out, I do stretch.
Yeah.
And something a lot of people don't know, I got 14 years of martial arts, taekwondo. So I know how to fall, how to move it.
I knew there's a secret somewhere.
Yeah. So, you know, but stretching is the main thing, you know, that's the key to it. And I danced a lot. I do a lot of dancing, and my whole routine to my act is my arms, my knees, my legs, my ankle, because that's what I use the most, and my leg muscles. So I work out with my legs the most.
You know, I was talking about you guys off camera. You know what I noticed as much as anything is just the playful banter. Obviously, you're old friends. You've seen each other in the music business. Y'all know each other. You're all New Orleans legends. But the respect.
Yeah, man, you know.
The respect y'all all have for each other.
Glen Davis, Sanchez, all the New Orleans musicians, man. You know, we travel, we do a lot of gigs together on the road, and the younger guys like Glen, you know, we take them under our wings at the Little Brothers. You know, they knocking on our door in the morning, man. Hey, man, y'all coming to breakfast, or we go sightseeing or whatever. And when the show starts, you know, we do our show, and who's ever closing the show, we make sure we call them on stage because it's all Louisiana acts, and the crowd just love it, man. And the love that we have for one another is unbearable, man. We just got a lot of love and respect for each other's frame of art of what they do, no matter if it's jazz, funk, soul, zydeco, blues, you know, it's like a big old pot of gumbo coming together.
A big old pot.
Know?
Let me say this. When I found Glen David's birthday was this week, and I feel bad. Glen David, happy birthday. I apologize. I'm not saying on air. I'm saying now.
Happy birthday, little brother.
But my man's only 43, right?
Yeah.
He's been through a lot in his life. I mean, he's seen a lot. He's got that family. And for him to talk about the respect on the show just a little while ago, looking up to you, looking up to Paul. You know, you're his seniors, not by much, but still, he looks up to y'all, and that's wonderful to hear still, because, you know.
It really makes me feel good, you know, despite the people that he grew up. Look, I mean, look at his grandfather, his great trombone shorty, 12. God rest the soul of Trumpet Black. He just grew up in a family that was just like my family.
Jimmy, the
just grew into
grandfather,
it.
was the patriarch of
right.
this, right?
You know, that was the one. That was the one that started it all.
You were talking about him off camera without even. I was already going to bring him up.
Right.
And I'm listening to you talk about him like you said. That bad boy can play.
Man.
Like, I mean, do you remember much? I mean, what do you?
Man, I remember a lot, man. He was just an amazing person, amazing artist. He just never was a dull moment with him. I'm just going to say that. It was never a dull moment with him. Always was something going, always had a joke, always had a drink, always just, when you saw him, you knew something was going on. A lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but few times I played Maple Leaf. You know, he came, hung out, and I brought him home. I remember one time I never had no idea where he lived at, because at the time I was living in Lafayette.
Right.
And we passed his house 3 times before he said, man, I said, you sure that's not it? We passed, then about 3 o'clock in the morning, then we found the house. That was it. Oh man, I'm sorry, little Dopsie.
GPS wasn't around, right?
No, I mean, GPS wasn't around, man.
We're just looking. We're not positive where we're at right now.
But look, and I'm enjoying listening to him talk about the people that, you know, influence him, you know, like the Alan Toussaint, the Dr. John, the Fats Domino, the Neville brothers, you know. Oh man, it's just man, Ernie Cato, you know, all those guys.
Well, we talked about Ernie a little bit on your show last time. Talk about lineage. We talked about your dad before.
Right.
The original Rockin' Dopsie. Right. What was his official title? The King of Zydeco, or was there something else?
No, he was the Prince. The Prince. Clifton Chenier was the King of Zydeco. My father was the Prince. Clifton Chenier was one of the people that brought Zydeco music to the forefront. You know, he had the big piano
That's always
accordion.
The name I heard in the 70s.
Yeah, he had the big piano accordion. And my father played the triple note button accordion. Yeah. But my father was left-handed, so he took his accordion and flipped it and played it upside down. And you know, my father and Clifton, those two guys, both only had first grade education. They had to quit school to do the crops and the farming and stuff. And those guys took Zydeco music to a level like nobody would ever expect that they did, you know?
You know, it's funny because I had all the pictures ready, and I said, you know, we talked about his dad last time. I'm going to not send these pictures this time. And we got to do the dad again. I feel bad because I want people to see it.
We'll do it again.
We'll do it again. But what I want to talk about is your Jazz Fest history.
Yes.
Right, because, I mean, you're one of these guys that gets to play a couple times. You know, Paul played last week. He's playing again this week.
Right.
You played last week. You're going to play this Thursday. I want to get to your Thursday show in a second, but I want to talk about your history there. Maybe playing with your dad if he played there, and yourself.
Well, you know, my history of playing with at Jazz Fest is a great history. Other like Glen, I'm a little older than Glen. I started playing Jazz Fest with my father in 1977. I was growing up, and you
must have been like a 1-year-old.
Oh no, man, I wish I was. I think I was like 12 or 13, right. And I started playing Jazz Fest with my father, and I heard you ask Glen how many years she played. This Jazz Fest. This Jazz Fest will be 34 years I've been playing Jazz Fest straight. Since I started with my father, since he's gone, it's 34 years. And my experience at Jazz Fest is playing with my father, sharing the stage at Jazz Fest with the Neville Brothers,
oh my God,
sharing the stage at Jazz Fest with the great John Fogerty, sharing
Creedence Clearwater, everybody, John Fogerty.
You know, I call him Uncle Johnny. You know,
wow, that's a legend.
Few years ago, he had his 40th year anniversary.
Yeah.
And Quint Davis hired me to play for him because John, I love him, you know. And they took the Creole Queen and they wrapped it and they called it the Proud Mary. And we played his 40th wedding anniversary on the Creole Queen boat, but they call it the Proud Mary. A few years ago, it had been 50 years since Paul Simon and Garfunkel played together. And I was blessed to share the stage with Simon and Garfunkel at Jazz Fest.
So Mahalia Jackson just had a wonderful play about them. You know, they played their old songs and did the
right.
One of the great duos of all time.
One of the greatest. Paul Simon, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. Yeah. You know, Jazz Fest. I think every musician, not only in New Orleans, but I think every musician in the world, you know, just wait for that moment to play the Jazz Fest. You know, I play festivals all over the world. You know, Japan, Australia, Brazil, Germany, France, Italy, Spain. There's no feeling like playing the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival.
Is that the one? Is that the one? Not just because you're from here, but
not just because I'm from here. It's something about the Jazz Fest that makes you want to say, oh man, I'm playing jazz. It's like I play Thursday and I'm ready to get on stage when I leave from here. It's just the crowd, the feel of the crowd.
Okay, so,
you know,
I take it like athletes, right? Because they admit, if they're being honest with you, if they're playing, like if say they're playing the Lions one week, the old Lions, and then they're going to play, you know, the Patriots, right? Or in basketball, they play the Lakers. They say they get up for just a little bit extra because we're going to be on national TV. We want this game more than the others. And they don't really want to admit that publicly, but the fact is it's true. And you're saying it's basically the same thing about the Jazz Fest.
Jazz Fest is like the Grammys. It's like the Grammys of the festivals. You know, it's like the Grammy Awards of the festivals. That's Jazz Fest to me.
Quint's going to love to hear this.
Yeah.
Quint, here's your promo right here, baby.
That's it. You got it from The Rock. That's my take on it. That's how I feel.
We talk about the experiences. I talked to, particularly with Paul. I said, you know, is there one time, like I've been to like 34 Jazz Fest, well, about 32. I've been going since grade school, 8th grade. My point being is that there's a couple shows that stand out. I've seen so many, but there's like 3 or 4. Like you mentioned Simon and Garfunkel, but you know Crosby, Stills, Nash. Right. I remember seeing Stephen Stills by himself in '85 at the Fade Odo, and I wasn't expecting much because I was in college. I'm thinking, and this guy just blew it away. Right. And I, you know, you think of all these particular shows. Is there one that you did, maybe that just like, man, this was a spiritual experience? I know several probably are. But was there one that stands out?
I think the show that stands out for me for Jazz Fest, and it was raining, was the weekend Prince died.
Oh my goodness!
I played the Sunday, and everybody was doing a tribute to Prince.
Yes.
Right next to me, and I remember that particular Jazz Fest, I was on the Fatal Doe stage.
Yeah.
And right next to that stage is Congo Square.
Right.
And I went to see the Isley Brothers before my set. and the Isley Brothers did a tribute to Prince.
Wow.
And I think Stevie Wonder, he didn't perform, but he was in New Orleans doing different little spot gigs. I know he was on Frenchman Street.
Yeah.
He did something with the late, great Walter Wolfman, who they're going to be doing a tribute to this Jazz Fest.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you for mentioning him, by the way. He just passed away, y'all. You didn't know, just a few months ago.
And
another legend here.
Right, and I'm like, man, I got to do this thing for Prince, because I was in Italy with Prince at the Umbria Jazz Fest, and man,
Italy with Prince sounds like a good time. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine had a long purple like robe, and she let me borrow it, and I came out. And I did Purple Rain, and the crowd just went crazy.
They went nuts?
And yeah, man, and it's like, I just put out so much. I might have did, I know I was on the Fado Dos stage. I did Zydeco, but I might have did about 6 Prince songs during my set, but it all came together.
I love that one stood out, because
that's the one that stood out to me.
I saw him, first time I saw him, 1982, Tommy Hitman Hearns was fighting the next day against Wilfred Benitez in the Dome. And he sat right in front of me. I was on the 3rd row. I'm like thinking, I got the greatest seat right in the middle. Tommy Hitman Hearns is 6'5", and he had that Jerry curl, and he was right in front of me. I did the whole show. I'm looking at it like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, Little Red Corvette. Yeah. That was that album.
That was the stuff, man. That was one of my greatest performances at Jazz Fest, and I think my second one ever.
It was at the Sanger, by the way. That's why it was a little.
Yeah. And I got 2 more. One of my second one ever was performing the last Jazz Fest with my father. That he performed. We were on the main stage, and the late great.
What year would that have been around?
That was in 1993, and the late great Ed Bradley from 60 Minutes.
Oh my gosh!
He joined us on stage, and Jimmy Buffett joined us on stage. I was
at that one. Jimmy Buffett and Ed Bradley. Yeah. I remember this vividly, because I remember Ed the first time we saw him with an earring, because Ed was 60 Minutes out, right? I mean, he was the legend. He's the Denzel of his time, right?
That's right.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm up close, because my friends knew Jimmy well because of the bar owner thing. Right. And I'm like, look at Ed Bradley with the earrings, man. Back then, that was something. Yeah. Because that was like 30 years ago, maybe more. So you remember that one?
I remember that one, man. And then my last experience at Jazz Fest was with none other than John Fogerty. Because the crowd was wrapped around. Revival. Yeah, and he was like, man, this stage here the crowd remind me of Woodstock. So it was good for me to be on stage with him.
And with a minute left, I got to ask you about this lineup that you're on the same stage with on Thursday. Thursday's the great one. That used to be called Locals Day. Right. Now it's gotten bigger and bigger, but it's still a little less crowded than the other days. Yeah. Because people do work. I mean, occasionally we have like 3 or 4.
A lot of people say, man, I wish I could have seen you. I got to work.
3 or 4 people in New Orleans work, right?
Yeah,
I mean, during
you got to do what you got to do.
So they can't be there. We got a little space. But the fact is, real quick, your stage on Thursday is as good as it gets in any lineup, and started with Cowboy Mouth in the beginning.
Starting with Cowboy Mouth, then you got Rockin' Dopsie Jr., you got the great blues legend, Buddy Guy. Buddy Guy. Who? I mean, come on.
My son got a pick from Buddy Guy early when he was 12. He's been playing guitar his whole life, and that was his thing. He just set in frame.
And then setting the stage down, which is the festival stage, the main stage. The great Carlos Santana. Don't get no better than that.
I saw him in '92 in Austria. By chance. I just happened to be there, and they said Santana's playing around the corner at a park for free. I'm like, unbelievable.
Wow, one of the sweetest guys in the world, man.
So you got to know him a little bit?
Oh yeah, I know him.
You know all the musicians in the world, pretty much.
All the musicians, man, pretty much. Scott, always a pleasure, my brother.
Well, this ain't gonna be the last time. You're a regular. This is your third.
Yeah.
Your third.
This is it.
Second in this studio. We're gonna put you right here. Paul Sanchez, Glen David Andrews.
I'd love to be a part of it.
Carnival Tom Johnson, and of course, we got Big Chief Monk Boudreaux. So adding Rockin' Dopsie to that, this is legends. This is a legendary tambourine. It might be going back and forth from Colorado. I might bring it up to Red Rocks.
It don't get no better than this.
Then shake it at Red Rocks.
There you go.
I went 5 times last year. I'm gonna go. Hey, so here we go. I probably won't go this year, but who knows? We got a black shirt. You said you like the black.
I love it in black. I love it in black.
You like the task or no?
I love it. I love it.
So you wear them out of the country ever?
I wore this T-shirt last time I was on your show. When I left your show 2 months later, I had a festival in Germany, and I had this T-shirt on after the show to absorb the sweat, and it held it real good. And I remember the girl was interviewing me, and she touched me, and she go, "Oh my God, you were all sweaty. What happened?" And I'm like, "Well, look, this comes from a friend of mine.
Bamboo cotton, bamboo cotton.
Can't get no better than bamboo."
I got it on the sports show.
Good morning.
All right, so here we go. You know these people at Delachey's and Shays Delachey's.
Yes.
Get down after it, get you a little wine if you drink, and then maybe a little food, because Shays Delachey's got phenomenal food.
Don't get no better than this.
You're the best. You're the best.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, man. Enjoy
Jazz
Jazz
got
Fest.
To go, Jazz Fest.
And Leslie Bonton Roulette.
Leslie Le Bonton Roulette. That's it. That's right. How about the crew?
Don't get no better than that.
Hey, coming back, we got next week. I got Coach David Kelly, LSU football coach. We're also going to bring in the LSU gymnast, Brian Kelly. What am I talking about? David Kelly's the one that did Treme. That's why David Kelly's on my mind. I saved that one. Brian Kelly, LSU fans, you know I know that. He brought that team to the SEC championship in his first year. And they're going to do bigger things. That's coming up next week. And the LSU gymnasts, they finished 4th in the country. We're going to be represented next week right here on Primetime Sports. Go to Jazz Fest, everybody, especially Thursday and Saturday when my guests are playing.
There you got it, baby.
See you, baby.